Okay, thanks Bocicia and Mercedes for the introductions. I hope that you can hear me. Can you just confirm that you can hear me okay? Great. Um, so this is my first ever webinar for IATEFL. Apologies in advance if I feel a little bit distracted today. There's an important football match going on and it involves the side that I'm supporting, which is England. So if you see my eyes slightly go to one side, that's because I've got the match on silent in the background. But hopefully 95 or 96% of my concentration will be focused on you people. And it's lovely to have so many people from all around the world, currently 148, 149 people in the room. I've been reading the chat box and can see that you're from different parts of the world. And I've been asking who you've been supporting in the World Cup. Now, normally when a webinar gets advertised, it highlights the presenter's qualifications and experience. But I must start off with a disclaimer. This webinar is about awareness of mental health issues for employers. You may have seen the word webinar. Well, rather than doing that, I'm going to give you my personal experience, and that is I have suffered from poor mental health during my professional career, mostly from anxiety and depression, but also as an undergraduate and in other jobs before I was an English language teacher. In 2012, I attended a clinic for the first time, which is the photo you can see on the screen. I attended two IATEFL conferences, one in Liverpool and one in Harrogate, where I suffered from acute anxiety. At both conferences, I was holed up in my hotel room, unable to leave. And actually, on the day I was in Harrogate, there was a pre-conference event with the Learning and Management SIG on the topic of burnout. I only discovered this recently. In 2017, I gave an interview for Time to Talk Day, and I also made the decision to go self-employed to take control of where and when I work. This was only a partial success. I'm not a business-orientated person, and advertising my services is not a natural thing for me to do. More recently, I've made better choices about where and when I work, and I'm in a much better place both geographically and mentally. And as was said in the introduction, I gave my first talk to any ELT conference this year in Brighton. You may have seen the recording that was made. It's on my blog and it's on YouTube. And during the presentation, I shared a survey on the mental health of language teachers around the world. And this was completed by, a survey was completed by 501 different teachers. And to coincide with my talk, I published an extensive blog post looking at the findings and featuring several quotations from the information in the open-ended survey. And I'll share the link to that again at the end. So what are we going to look at today? Well, this workshop is not another presentation of my findings, but I'm going to look at these questions. Now, I'm not going to read them. I'll let you read them. They are the questions which I posed in the abstract for this talk. You may have even taken part in my survey, by the way, and for that I'd like to thank you. But I'd also like you to take part by answering the questions as these come up in the webinar. But if you've got specific questions for me, could you leave them for the Q&A session at the end? And hopefully that will coincide with half-time in the football. So, we're going to look at these questions. The first question is this. Is it ever right to disclose a diagnosed mental health condition up front or in an interview, or having been hired for a job in language teaching? I'll let you comment and answer that question in the chat box. Okay, some people saying no, one or two saying yes, some people saying not a good idea if you want to get hired. No, I don't think so. Yeah, it depends on the situation. Yeah. Yeah, we have rights in the UK, Christian, it's true, but the reality is a different matter. So for a lot of you, it depends on the situation. But the majority of you seem to be saying no, or probably not really. I mean, this tallies with what I found out in my survey. I mean, in the research, about 280 people said no, or not really, or never, something like that. Overwhelmingly, the informants thought this was a bad idea. The most common response was that there was a concern that they would not get the job or it would affect their chances. 37 informants used the word stigma in their reply, while others referred to the perception of disclosure. There was a fear of the reaction for many, with some expressing that the country or the culture specifically that they work in had a large bearing on this. Many felt that they would not have the required support in the workplace or the understanding. However, about 73 out of the 500 teachers or teaching professionals did say yes. A minority of informants were keen to express the importance of the condition being out in the open, and a few wanted to receive understanding or possible support in the workplace, if they felt it might be there. Many directly wanted to challenge the established stigma and the prejudices that people face. Okay, I'm going to move on now to the second question, and that is this. This was another question from the survey. It's what kinds of factors do you think could be a cause of stress for language teachers? And this could be your own or a colleague's experience. Again, I'll let you answer in the chat box. Okay, a couple kicked off with bullying, workload, micromanagement, the challenging students. Stress can't be mentioned where we work, says Zenaida. Excessive workload, overload. So a lot of people talking about work, overworked, workload, some personal problems. Yes, often people bring in their own issues to work, things to do with family and other things going on in their life, school management. No support from little support from management. So yeah, that can compound the issues for sure. Being worried about being good enough. Yeah, I mean, imposter syndrome is something I've mentioned, Lizzie. Not feeling that you should be there or not being good enough to have the job, and this kinds of thing. Okay, great. Okay, so this is good. This kind of reflects a lot of what people were saying. And of course, we've got a very international audience here today from around the world. So your own contextual situation is important here, because it may well be contextual situations. There's no universal reasons why stress is caused for language teachers in our profession. This is some of the answers. Oh, sorry, I've clicked on the thing. I don't know what's happened there. There's a slide missing. Something's gone wrong with the slide. I don't know why that is. Okay, I don't know what's happened with the slide there. It seems to have jumped to the wrong slide for some reason. I don't know why. But some of the things that were going to be on this slide were things like workload, perfectionism, job insecurity, meeting deadlines, demanding parents, large class sizes, unrealistic expectations, progress for students in a very short space of time, a lack of support, a lack of appreciation, and harassment and bullying, as a lot of people said. Perfectionism is something that I've suffered from in the past. Over the years, I've had to learn not to be a perfectionist. For me, good enough is good enough. That's my mantra. And some of these things you can unlearn. So as well as this webinar being about poor mental health, it's also about good mental health. And let's not forget that mental health doesn't have to be negative. It can be positive just as easily. Okay. One of the key things that came out of the survey, and a couple of people I think have mentioned in the chat, is burnout. And burnout is a significant cause of stress, or stress causes burnout. And burnout is when that feeling of being just so overwhelmed with the workload and other things that you just suffer from complete exhaustion and you can't carry on. I mentioned Rosalie Sarah in my talk in Brighton. She's written about this. And another person who's presented on this topic is Aggie Enyedi. And she presented about this at the Leadership and Management pre-conference event in Harrogate in 2014, and has given a British Council webinar on this, which I shared recently. She lists here a number of signs of burnout that individuals should be looking for. And hang on a second, I'll just something's gone wrong with the slides. Hang on a second. Click on that. Can somebody help me with the slides because they're not playing as I expected them to? Hang on a second.
Okay, Phil. Note.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
When I click on the slide, it goes to the next slide, not the next thing. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, a little bit of a problem with the slides and my navigation of them, so I apologize. I should be better at technology given I'm part of the ELT SIG. Anyway, so I'll let you read this quote, which is from Agin Yeti, which is at the Leadership and Management pre-conference event in Harrogate. So these, what I'm trying to say is these are things to look, signs to look out for burnout. You're moaning, groaning, complaint, a change of behaviour, being absent for no good reasons, extended sick leave. Some of these are clues as to somebody who might be suffering from or on the verge of suffering from burnout. And as Fernando says, yes, burnout, it's true, but it's more of a consequence of a number of factors rather than the cause. It's not the cause, it's what happens. It's the result of all these other stresses that happen in the teaching situation. Okay, so I'm moving on to the next question. Question 3. This is how confident do you feel, or how confident do you feel, I don't know why it's written there twice, but how confident do you feel at recognizing symptoms of poor mental health in teachers yourself, whether you're a teacher or a line manager or an employer? So, I mean, this could be language school owners, even people that work in human resources, or they don't like the term human resources. It reduces people to something that can be used for a purpose and then discarded when it has no more use. So some of you are saying confident, some of you kind of confident, not very confident, fairly confident. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a limiting question because I'm just talking about your confidence here, being able to recognize the signs. We looked at possible signs of burnout, but there were a whole gamut, whole range of mental health issues as well. And often people hide their condition or the symptoms that they're going through. Quite confident, I feel anxiety, confident enough. That's interesting. Yeah, enough confidence. Not an expert. I mean, I'm not an expert, but you know, if you've had lived experience, you can bring a lot to bear on recognizing the sign in other people as well. Yeah, I mean, if you've got an authentic condition, if you've got a real condition, is it good to hide it? And we've talked about whether it's a good idea to hide it at the point of getting a job or being hired, but during the job or when you're in the job, you know, is there a point in which you can feel that disclosure is appropriate? For a lot of people, I guess it's not either appropriate in the context they teach or easy to do. I think it's a very difficult thing to do. Okay. What we're going to do is going to look at 7 questions. But before we do that, I'm just going to say about the phrase I'm okay or I'm fine. Often a line manager will say, how are you doing? Are you okay? And then people say, yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine. A manager often asks how you are. Many employers reply with these short phrases. And this may be true, but many employers hide their conditions or symptoms and may not be fully upfront about what is going on. They often fear the reprisals, reduced responsibility, the risk of losing their job. And these prevent a proper disclosure. Some signs of poor mental health can be observable, but many more are not. In your country or culture, this may be even more so of the case, because some problems you just simply don't mention. I had a woman from Hungary who came up to me after my talk at conference. She said, we just don't mention it in my country. But I'm not saying that that's true for Hungarians, but maybe you know could say that in your country we just don't talk about this. Okay, I'm going to lead into an activity here, and this is an activity I want you to take part in. And what it is, I'm going to show you 7 slides, and I'm going to show you 7 slides with descriptions of symptoms of 7 types of diagnosed mental health conditions. And you have to work out the condition for each and comment in the chat box. could Mercedes or Bozicius just click on the next thing so it doesn't go to the next slide? Thank you very much, because when I do it, it just goes to the next slide. So the task here, that your instructions are to read the descriptions of 7 conditions one by one and describe or decide, what kind of condition these symptoms are describing. Okay? Here's number 1. Again, Bosicia or Mercedes, could you click? Thank you. And then one more, just one more, and then stop. Don't click again. Okay, so your job is to recognize the diagnosed or diagnosable mental health condition from the description. Give you about half a minute. Yeah, okay. I don't think I need to give you any longer. Most of you, or 95% of you, have hit the nail on the head. It is depression. Could you click the next? Thank you very much. If you could just click when I say click, because it's not going to work for me. Okay, so depression is the one here. Okay, I'll move it on to the next slide, and we'll look at the next condition, condition B. And again, could you just, Bosicia? Yeah, thank you. Just that's one. That's it. That's it. Thank you. So this is the next one. So again, what is this condition? Good, a lot of answers coming in. Yeah, just give you 10 more, 20 more seconds. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, good. A lot of people saying bipolar, just one word, bipolar. Some people saying bipolar disorder. Some saying manio-depressive syndrome or manic depression. Yeah, okay, yeah, most of you have got that one as well. Okay, could you click on the link, Bosicia? Thank you. Yeah, so it's bipolar disorder. Used to be called manic depression, but they've moved away from that term. So it's people who have extreme mood swings, but long periods of highs and long periods of lows as well. Okay, I'll click on the next slide and we'll look at condition C. And could you click one and then click one more? Thank you. And this is the third condition. No, bipolar is a condition, not a symptom. That's right, Rosalie. Yeah, so people saying anxiety for this one. Anxiety, just anxiety. Anxiety disorder. Don't know. Yeah, okay, 10 more seconds. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, again, click on the link. Click on the next. That's it, thank you, and leave it there. It's actually generalized anxiety disorder, which is one form of anxiety disorder. It's what I've got. It's what I was diagnosed with in 2012, and I still suffer from it occasionally. Only last week I had an anxiety attack at work, and I had to deal with it. Or I had, my line manager was involved, but I had to go through it and come out the other side. But it was based on a number of worries that all conspired together, and it was a general worry that was going on, and that's what people who have GAD or GAD suffer from. Okay, condition number 4, or D, condition D. Can you click once? Thank you. Here we go. Again, see if you can get this one. Somebody has said go, and it hasn't come through on my screen yet, but I'm very happy about this. Thank you for the information. Yeah. My screen, my TV, it's on an iPad. It's slightly delayed, so I'm about half a minute behind. So by the time you answer this question, so let's get back to the question. Okay, a couple of you have got it. Yeah, some of you. Yeah, panic attack. Not panic attack, Mariella. Yeah, not goal for, that's quite correct. Yeah, that's a correction, Stephen. It's not a goal for the UK. Scotland aren't in this, Wales aren't in it. It's just England, that's right. But I'm happy to know this nonetheless. Can we click on the answer, please? Yes, it's obsessive compulsive disorder. So you don't win a prize, but well done if you guessed it. These are the symptoms that are defined or part of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and that can take shape in a number of different ways. It's not just about a cleaning ritual or obsessive kind of rituals. I mean, it can take its form in a number of different ways. Okay, condition E, or the fifth one. Okay, and could you click once? That's it, thank you. This is the next one. Have a go at this one while I wait for the goal to come through on my screen. I think my coverage is a long way behind. I must have pressed pause at some point. Okay, so any thoughts about this one? Condition E, a bit more tricky maybe. Irritability, autism. Yeah, compulsion. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Asperger's. Okay, Asperger's. Yeah, Asperger's. We talk about the autism spectrum. People on the autism spectrum, and that's one of them. Yeah, I've seen the goal now. Thank you very much. It's a header, very good header. I don't know who scored it, but it's not really a mix of the previous ones. This is a bit different one. This is not as common, but it's certainly to do with the perception and how you see the world. Okay, if you could, I'm not sure anyone's, thank you very much. So I'm not sure everyone got it exactly. It's psychosis. Mary-Ann Peters, well done, you got it. Psychosis or psychotic disorder. So a psychotic disorder, it would be the diagnosis. Psychosis, if you were suffering from a form of psychosis, it's all about perception, how you perceive things and things like that. And drink and drugs, or excessive use of drink and drugs can, especially some drugs or narcotics can lead to psychosis. Okay, let's go to F. And could you click once? Thank you. Okay, and try this one. Paranoia. I mean, yeah, paranoia is something that, paranoia, yeah, would probably come more into either generalized anxiety disorder or possibly psychosis as well. Okay. Give you 10 more seconds. People are starting to answer. A couple more saying paranoia or a mixture of things. I mean, it's true that there's no clear definition between all of these. A lot of these symptoms, they overlap into other conditions. Okay, a few more seconds. Yeah, yeah, thank you. The majority of you are saying panic disorder or panic attack. So this is people that are vulnerable to panic disorder or diagnosed with this are vulnerable or liable to suffer from a panic or anxiety attack. And as I alluded to earlier, this is something that I suffer from myself. I still get them occasionally. Not always as bad as they used to be, but it was a series of panic attacks that ended up in hospital. And I've had to learn about what are the things that cause panic attacks, and I'm going to hold it there because we're going to deal a little bit more with panic attacks later on. In the meantime, let's go on to the final one. So condition G. Okay, and hold it there. Hope you can read that. The writing's a little bit smaller. There's lots to get in on this one. I think it's something that a couple of you have mentioned already for some of the other symptoms that were listed. Okay, hold that, Dr. Venturkarman. We're going to talk about panic attacks some more in a bit. Okay, it's difficult for me to read everything. Okay, it looks like most of you are honing in on one word, and that's schizophrenia. So I'll give you a few more seconds about that. Schizophrenia. I'm not sure schizo is the correct term. It's obviously short for schizophrenia. It probably wouldn't be the polite way of talking about somebody who has suffered from this. But yeah, could we click on the answer, please? Yeah, for those that said schizophrenia, these are the the basic symptoms of schizophrenia, which is a form of psychosis, as I think one or two maybe said. Okay. Now, of course, as I said, many of these conditions are interchangeable. They overlap. A person may suffer from one or more of these in their lifetime. The key issue here is that you can recognize the symptoms without someone disclosing them. Remember that many of these will be hidden to a manager. Unless the employee states that something is wrong, a manager may have no idea that they are actually suffering from these. The use of drink and drugs and addictions can have an effect on all of these conditions. They can increase the likelihood, be a barrier to treatment, or in getting better. People smoke to try to relieve anxiety, but I think smoking can make it worse, in fact. Psychosis, in particular, can be caused by alcohol misuse, illegal drugs such as cannabis, hallucinogens, stimulants. Many employees will use drinking and smoking as coping mechanisms in order to get through, but they may not always be the most healthy option available. Now, there are other anxiety conditions like phobias, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, drug and alcohol dependency, and other addictions. In fact, recently, gaming addiction was classified by the World Health Organization as a mental health condition. Some people just are overthinkers or unnecessary worriers without being diagnosed with any condition. And there are also things like eating disorders such as bulimia and anorexia. But I'm not going to focus on those ones today. Okay, question 4. Something again is wrong with the slides. Okay. I don't know what's happened with the slides. Hang on a second. Can you bear with me while I just find out what's happened with the slides? Okay, right, yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, yeah, we're back in the room. Okay, well, I'm back in the room. Okay, one of the ways in which people that have had mental health first training, including myself, talk about the ALGE model, the ALGE model, and how do you deal with this? Well, how do you support a language teacher without specific training? Well, mental health training uses this acronym, which is basically where you assess the risk of suicide or self-harm. So that's that's the worst case scenario. And if they're not in a situation where they are thinking of harming themselves, then you can go to the next stage, which is to listen non-judgmentally. Giving reassurance and information is important. Encourage the person to get appropriate professional help after the event or after the thing, or if it's persisting, and to encourage self-help strategies. One of the most common things that the employee might go through at work is an anxiety or a panic attack. And I would briefly like to go through how to deal with somebody that has a panic attack. But first of all, I want to ask you, so your experience of either yourself having a panic or anxiety attack or other people having one, what advice would you give? And I'll leave you to put in something in the chat room. I mean, some directors of studies, assistant directors of studies might feel fairly confident on dealing with somebody that's suffering from this. Quite often, it's related to the amount of workload. Many more will not even know what the cause of these things are. Okay, a lot of you are saying to breathe, meditation, breathing, relaxation, taking water, as I just did. Walk around, leave the situation that might be causing this anxiety attack. Because it's about regaining control of your breathing for sure. That is true. Okay, remove yourself from the situation. That's a good idea, Claire. Yeah. A lot of people do yoga, not only as something to do when it happens, but as a preventative thing. And a lot of people think about mindfulness or meditation. These are all good suggestions. Could you click on the next link? That's it. Thank you. I'll leave it there. Okay, so this is some advice for Minds. I say Mind is a charity here in the UK, mental health charity, possibly one of the most well known. And so they suggest focus on your breathing. Used to have a situation where you used to have paper bags, and that was a way to get control of your breathing, because a lot of people hyperventilate or they start breathing very heavily. Stamping on the spot, focusing on the senses, so that's mindfulness practice brings mechanisms like this into place, being in the moment and focusing. Or distractions, or some people say that distracting or having something to distract yourself to take your mind off what's causing the anxiety in the first place. Grounding techniques is what that is. So useful if you experience disassociation during panic attacks. And I think I've mentioned the things that I was going to say. Let's just go on to the next one because there's more information after a panic attack. So it's not just the panic attack itself and helping someone to recover from that, but it's about the aftercare, self-care. If this is something that is liable to happen in the workplace, then the person who suffers may need to think about how to look after themselves, paying attention to what the body is saying. Immediately after a panic attack, often people feel that they crave sugar, these kinds of things. Blood sugar levels can change dramatically. I mean, when I started to have them really, really badly and I ended up in hospital in the UK, I learned about the amygdala. The amygdala is part of the brain. It's the back of the brain. It's this necessary primitive set of small clusters of nuclei near the base of the brain. These clusters are they're most active when you experience fear or aggression, since they're responsible for triggering the body's fight or flight response. It's about the perception of threat. It's great for knowing how to respond to a lion or a shark, but not so good when the threat isn't actually real. Anxiety and panic attacks occur when environmental or emotional stressors convince the amygdala that you are in danger. And the reasons behind anxiety attacks start in this amygdala, and a single thought can trigger things off. Thinking that sets off a chain reaction or a panic cycle of racing thoughts, which are frequently irrational. This leads to a number of physical symptoms such as hyperventilation, which I've mentioned, and other physical sensations like palpitations, numbness, and dizziness. Some people, yes, Conrad, suggest a cup of tea. A nice sugary cup of tea is a way to get somebody calmed down after this. I certainly craved a whole packet of hobnobs for some strange reason. Your body does deplete, and it craves kind of a sugar intake or a carbohydrate intake immediately after. As a bystander, if you know that somebody is having one of these, a panic attack, you need to start by encouraging them, as many of you have said, to get control of their breathing. And not do what we used to do for hysteria, which was to slap somebody around the face. That's a very old school method. Now, I've had panic attacks that have lasted for hours, often when there is no one around to coax me out of them. You don't need to be a doctor or a medical professional to help somebody around. Just recognizing that it is happening and being there for them is important. Make them realize that the threat or the danger isn't actually there, and that they will be able to calm themselves down to a normal level. Maybe encourage them to go to a safe place, somewhere outside, somewhere that is not continuously triggering the overwhelming thoughts, and deal with the physical symptoms first, and then you can go to the aftercare. Okay, moving on to the next thing. Okay, this is, I think, my final question to you, and it's: in what ways can an institution or an employer support the mental health and well-being of its employees? I'll leave that to you in the chat box. Wolfgang, I'll have to try listening to John Coltrane. I think I've got that on my Spotify or my iTunes. I Love Supreme. I'll have to try that one out. Okay, yeah. If you've got actual questions for the Q&A at the end, then could you put them in the questions box? Thanks. A crying room, interesting. Anger sessions, stress anger sessions. A truly safe environment. Okay, encouraging suggestions. Lots of good answers coming here. I mean, this is one of the key questions today. It's because my focus is on what employers can do. I mean, never mind what the individual can do. It's what can the employer do? Yeah, yeah. My experience of open plan offices is bad too, Stephen. Yeah, just that kind of constant noise distraction, that noise pollution. Yeah, culture of trust. I mean, yeah. I mean, establishing a culture of trust, I think is quite important. Grace is correct, but I didn't see what Grace said. I missed it. A warm, safe working environment. Yes, yes. Yeah, a warm, self-supportive working environment and safe as well. Yeah, be more human. Yeah, I mean, I hate the phrase human resources because I just think it forgets about the human element and it's more about humans or people as resources. Something that's disposable. Yeah, support. Okay, great. Some great answers there. I mean, the lengths of answers to this question in my survey I mean, there's a huge amount of response in my survey. It was second in terms of response only in terms of the number of words that people wrote to the question about stress. It also builds on the answers given in that question about stress, which were a mixture of individual circumstances and external issues. The focus on this question, though, is squarely on what the employer or the institution can do. It also has importance for line managers and others responsible for maintaining employee mental health, even if it's not part of their job description, of course. Informants really took to answering this question, but I'm dealing with the questions, the suggestions you're giving. I'm going to put on the screen, if you could just click once, please, some of the responses that came out of the survey. And as you can see, top of the list was training. This is an awareness session, and the reason for that, training is something that really needs to be done by people that are either qualified or have had training in this themselves. And in most situations in language schools around the world, there isn't currently somebody who is trained or qualified to do this. There is a serious lack of CPD or mental health and well-being integrated into CPD weeks or induction weeks or other things. I mean, recently I started on a pre-session, or there was a whole week of induction. We had a talk from the people that were responsible for the student welfare, but there was no mention of staff welfare. So there is still currently a lack of this for the teachers, I feel. Awareness raising, stress management, somebody said, mindfulness courses, taking steps to avoid teacher burnout, having a designated person, as I mentioned, union representation. A lot of people in the survey talked about working conditions and being represented. This is not currently common in our industry. It's very difficult for an international organisation to take a stand on this because we're so disparate. We're in lots of different countries and different legal systems. Improving teacher paying conditions, acknowledging that human part of the phrase human resources and not seeing us as disposable, and aiming to get teachers free from discrimination and abuse. Now, counselling, counselling featured in many answers along with awareness. A few institutions already provide this. It's more commonly available for students, but it requires state-trained staff, and a lack of training currently exists in the sector. I mean, mentioned legislation. There is legislation for discrimination in the workplace. I think Christian Talapi might have mentioned this earlier. Legislation, so discrimination legislation. Now, this isn't going to be in every single country. I don't know about your country. Can I quickly ask, is there legislation in your country that protects people who might be discriminated against in terms of mental health? Yes, in Canada, I would probably expect it of Canada, yeah. Uh, so I've missed a bit of the chat. I'm trying to catch up now with some of the chat. In the Netherlands, yeah. Not sure in Egypt. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure it's. I mean, I think we've probably still got some way to go in terms of, if you disclose something, if you were then fired from your job, would you be able to say, well, I was fired illegally? Not sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, if a lot of people talk about abuse, harassment, and bullying in the chat, uh, demanding bosses, institutions, they can cause problems. I didn't draw any conclusions from my own research that working in ELT causes poor mental health, but in some institutions and given certain conditions, it can do. I think it often depends on what kind of employer it is, the prevailing situation of the context in which the teacher happens. And anyway, yeah, there's more comments from people who did the survey about this on my blog post. There's more there. Okay, we're coming towards the end because I want to leave about 10 minutes for a Q&A, and there's lots of questions which I haven't even had a chance to look at yet in the chat box. I'm just going to leave you with a final. Oh, sorry, I'll just go back. Okay. Could you click? Thank you. I'll let you read this. It's one of the anonymous responses to my survey, which I put on my blog, and I'm going to leave you with this one. Yeah, I mean, I'm picking up on Inez's comments there, but a lot of blah blah. I mean, teachers may well complain, they may raise issues, but in a lot of situations, around the world, teachers are not respected to the level that they should be. A lot of talk gets unnoticed. A lot of talk about looking after teachers is just talk. There's no action, and there is often in lots of situations a serious lack or a serious gap between an employer or an institution talking about mental well-being or good, positive well-being for its teachers, and actual action, and taking steps and measures to make sure that is actually in place and that teachers are supported. Okay, very difficult. We're going to generalize here because we're talking about an international situation. We're not talking about one local context, but many contexts, and there's 165 people in the room. Okay, I'm gonna end there just by saying thank you. I was going to show you some mental health resources. If you were to click on that image, you would get some mental health resources from Mental Health First Aid England, which is the organisation I've had training in, and that book behind me is the book. It's like the Bible for mental health training, but that is UK-centric, but it can be applied to other countries around the world. You have basic posters and other things for the work area. Other than that, these are my references, and just time to say thank you, and I've got about 5 or 6 minutes for questions. But I'll say now, if I don't deal with your questions now because there is not enough time and the football is going on and I want to see the second half, then I will answer all of your questions by email. So maybe if Boziccia or Mercedes, maybe Boziccia, if you email me all of the questions, collect them all together, I'll individually answer them. But I've got 5 minutes now.
You've got like 6 minutes if you like to answer some questions, some of the questions. I will read them for you. Is that okay?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, do you want to read one out? And I'll try.
Yeah.
I'll give it my best.
The first question is from Christian. He asks, how did you find the courage and the space for vulnerability to transform your own pain into a positive message for others?
Well, when I was younger, Christian, I used to hear about, everyone's got a story in them. And when I started to suffer in English language teaching from poor mental health, with anxiety and with having panic attacks, so much that it affected my career, I always felt that if I was ever going to do a talk or present a webinar on a topic, that this would be a topic that was close to my heart. I'm not medically trained. I'm not a medical professional, as I stated at the outset. I do have, experience of being an English language teacher, so I know what it's like. And I felt that I had something to contribute. And so about 18 months ago, this started with my original interview for Time to Talk Day, for Talksig. and out of that came an amazing response on social media, which then inspired me to take this to the next stage. I met Sarah Mercer in Malta last October, and she encouraged me to do a survey, and I published that in December, and that just went massive. It's incredible. In 3 weeks, 500 people, and I was convinced that this was something that people wanted to talk about or something they wanted to hear. So in terms of transforming my own pain, I have no hang-ups about disclosing what's gone on with me, because I think I have something to share to others, and that people can learn from my experience, and it helps them. I hope that answers your question.
Another question is from Claire. Do you know where we could access specific training on this topic? What employers might recognize and give us, for example, the role of being the designated person for staff members to talk to?
Right, Claire, I don't know specifically. I know Mental Health First Aid do training sessions. They're not cheap. They are UK based. I can't remember if you're in UK. I think you might be in Germany. I'm not sure. It's difficult to know. A lot of what I know is UK centric. So Mind are UK based. Mental Health First Aid England are obviously England based. So I don't know the exact answer on that. In terms of where I said that there's a gap in terms of managers, employees needing to have some trained staff. I think Mind and Mental Health First Aid would be the first people to go to as part of local organisations in other countries, Germany or whatever. I don't know. So I haven't got a definitive answer on that. But as I say, the ones I mentioned for sure. There are a lot of mental health charities as well that we should provide support and training. Of which Mental Health First Aid are probably the best, but they're not cheap.
Stephen asks, what's the title of the book?
The book. Which book is that? The title of the book. Which book? The one on there?
Yeah.
Over there? Okay, I've got two. There's two. There's first of all, there's a duck, which is not a book, which is my lucky duck. One is Language Teacher Psychology, which is a fantastic academic collection of papers put together by Sarah Mercer and Achilles Kostoulis, and I heartily recommend this. This has only just come out this year. If you're into some heavy reading but some very worthwhile reading, that's an academic level. A much more approachable book is something by Natasha Devon, and that's A Beginner's Guide to Being Mental. She uses the word mental quite deliberately because it used to be a term of abuse, saying that somebody is mental or nuts, and she takes that word on and repurposes it for her own self. I myself used to be mental, in inverted commas, but nowadays people are more likely to say, well, you're the mental health guy, or are you the mental health guy?
And the last question is, how can we face unrealistic expectations from top officials? It is most time becomes so stressful.
Could you say who said that question so I could see it on the screen?
Sekaran, and he says, how can we face unrealistic expectations from top officials?
Yeah, I don't know in what situation you are. Are you in India, Rajesh Karan?
So.
I don't.
Yes, he is.
I don't know much about
in the chat box.
India. Yeah. Right, he is. Oh, he is. Right. Sorry, it's difficult to keep an eye on everything. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, as I've alluded to, a lot of these are culturally and contextually specific. I'm not very familiar with India and how it works in India in terms of top officials and what top officials are like. More generally, I could talk about the issue of there is unrealistic expectations in the workplace, certainly on a teacher and even on middle managers. I've heard of materials writers having also unrealistic expectations in terms of deadlines and not being paid enough for what they do. In terms of teaching, well, this is a situation where I would hope that we could move to a situation where employers create an atmosphere where things could be raised and issues of workload and other things like unrealistic expectations could be challenged, or at least that for the individual teacher, they don't feel that they should be burdened and create too much stress on themselves by the fact that they are doing almost an impossible job, showing student progress within a very short space of time. So I'm sorry that's not a full answer, but I think your question might be kind of country specific. I don't know.
Thank you, Phil. I think it's all for now. for today because it's 5
Right.
o'clock already. Oh, 4 o'clock UK time.
4 o'clock, and it's nearly the end of half
Thanks.
time, and I want to go and watch the football.
Okay.
So thank you for everyone to attend, and thank you for giving me the goal updates. I didn't know we'd scored
We
until
will collect
people had said in the chat.
other questions and post them on IATEFL website. The recording will be uploaded on the IATEFL website too. So thanks Mercedes for technical support, and thanks Phil for doing the webinar. And thanks everybody for joining us today and for giving us your time to be with us.
Okay.
Okay, goodbye.